going to finish up a little bit where we spoke off yesterday. Shalom, shalom, all of you joining us online as well. It looks like we're live. Good to go. Wonderful. Hopefully the sound is awesomeness. We had a little discussion around the campfire last night talking about the revelation of the scepter, Genesis, Bereshit, chapter 49, verse 10, and that was new to quite a lot of you. The passing over principle and the scepter, and this was something that I thought was very important. And I wanted to give you another example following yesterday of Judah giving away the scepter. And anybody, where would we find that, do you think? Of course, we'd find it in the account of Judah and Tamar. So here's another example of Judah giving away the scepter, jumping off from Genesis chapter 49, verse 10, and the translation that I gave you of that yesterday, the corrected translation. So this is really a prophetic shadow picture of Judah giving away his right to rulership and it being given to one who is more righteous than him. And I'm just going to embarrass Michael and ask Michael to come up right now and just share something that he just dropped on me yesterday afternoon. Because, again, brethren, so many of you, I mean, are just so blessed and studied, and I can be studying something for so long, and then somebody just drops something, and I'm like, oh my goodness, it's right there. We were talking about the tribe of Judah. We were talking about the migration of Judah teaching, which identifies who the true Jews are. But then we were talking also yesterday about how Judah has given up the right to rule, and that Joseph Ephraim, that is Israel, has the duty of bringing in the tribes. But what happened to Judah, and what is Judah's role? And I thought I would invite Michael up here to share with us. So here you go, hotspot. Sorry. Stand right here. There you go.
So I've been studying over it. The interesting thing about
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry. So I've been studying over it. The interesting thing about Judah is Judah are warriors. They're soldiers. So hello. Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, so Judah are warriors. They're soldiers. So in the development of Judah, as we left out, even how the scripture said, Judah left away, because it took warriors before and soldiers to protect, because we were going into battle spiritually and physically. But coming back, what does that look like? That's not the same coming back. And the scriptures confirm how it should not be Judah, because Judah's role is, even time like tactfully, when the military goes in and they go into other countries, they don't send specifically the military first. They send in what we call modern day spies, recon, people that go in and they gain information, they figure out terrain, they understand the layout, the geographical outlay, to know where they're going into. That doesn't take a soldier. That takes someone who can go into the land peacefully to understand, to gain information. I mean, you even think about the spies that Moshe sent into the other land. What tribes were they from? None of us really think about that. None of them were Judah. Joshua gave the righteous, answers as to what he actually saw. What tribe was Joshua from? Ephraim. Because he was to do what? He was basically a gray man. He went into the land to get information, to understand what we're going up against. And that played a big part. So going into, coming out of this current captivity, as we go into it, Judah cannot enter into the land without Israel. And I mean Ephraim. Ephraim cannot enter into the land without Judah. The one thing we know for sure is the same way that we went out is the exact same way that we coming back in.
Mm-hmm.
You can't debate that. All 12 tribes took the thing. All 12 tribes made the covenant with the Most High Yah. All 12 tribes failed. All 12 tribes were judged. And he said that he is the same yesterday, tomorrow. You know, he's not changing. So how do we go back in? Exactly. We go in together the same way. So that was just something that fell on my spirit. And the powerful thing is, if the priesthood has changed, which we know it has, so you have Yeshua the king, you have the priest, which is the Melchizedek, which is the new priesthood, and you have Israel. Well, if we know that Ephraim or Israel is the administration, then it points back to Judah being what? The warriors. So it's so important because we cannot do this alone. We were not designed to do this alone. And Yah made sure we would not do this alone. So, you know, that's all.
Awesome. Thank you, Michael. That was, he just dropped that on my lap in the sunshine yesterday afternoon. I was like, that's exactly it. The distinction between roles. No one is greater than the other, only the Most High and his Son is greater than us. And we are all one in his hand, but we have different functions. There's administrators and there's warriors, and we need our warriors. But the warriors also need those of us to be able to administrate how to exit the nations from captivity and to go into the land and build the new kingdom. Of course, he's going to bring down the new Jerusalem, but we have to have that tactical force, but also the administration of that tactical force. Which brings us, of course, to this wonderful, wonderful principle that we're going to see, the prophetic shadow picture, or shadow picture, where Judah gives away the scepter. Genesis Bereshit, chapter 38, verse 17. And she said, of course, she being Tamar, who's cloaked now, cloaked and hidden, will you give me a pledge until you send it? And he said, what pledge shall I give you? And she said, your signet and your bracelets and your staff or scepter that is in your hand. And he gave it to her and came into her, and she conceived by him. Now, later on, a few verses in verse 25, then, of course, some time goes by and he comes back and she poses the question to Judah, please discern. So discernment is a very big part of us navigating the rightful rulership and administration of Israel. Please discern whose these are, the signet, the bracelet, and the staff or scepter. And Yehuda acknowledged them and said, she has been more righteous than I, because that I gave her not to Shelach, my son. She is more righteous than I. Why? Why is she more righteous than him? Good question. Answers? Anybody want to take that one? Yes, Laurie.
She was promised something and he didn't fulfill his promise.
She was promised something.
She took it on her.
He didn't fulfill the promise, so she went about to pursue the promises of Yah. Would you say that's a good?
Yeah.
Yes, to pursue the promises of Yah. That's our duty. The world's not going to give it to us. And what's promised us, they're not going to give. It is our duty to pursue the promises of Yah, even when there are unsurmountable obstacles or insurmountable obstacles before us. What's interesting is the spelling of the son's name. Shin Lamed He. Is that the same as something else that we just mentioned yesterday? Shiloh. They come from the same root. So she is more righteous than I because she fulfilled the Torah, Laurie, right? She fulfilled the Torah because if she had not acted, if Tamar had not acted, there would have been no zerah, no seed in Judah, and that tribe would have become extinct. And isn't that exactly what the world has done to, or attempted to do to the true Judahites, to enslave them and make them extinct by rebranding them as African Americans or whatever you want to pigeonhole you as, other than who you true tribally are, to make Judah extinct and then replace Judah with a counterfeit from Japheth and Gomer, right? It's very, very interesting because you can see that this would have been the extinction of the tribe of Judah, including the way to Mashiach's birth, if she had not have acted. So just as we have today, if the remnant of Ephraim does not act, neither can Yahusha come again. We need to act just like Tamar acted. Now, Shelah's name was actually Shiloh, right? Or Shiloh, because both words are from the same root word, shalah, shalah. So Tamar was not given to Shelah or not given to Shiloh, meaning the one in legal possession of the rod of rule, Tamar, cannot be given to a harlot mixture, right? We've got to not be a harlot mixture ourselves. How are we going to inherit the promises of Yahweh when we are a harlot mixture? That's why this cleansing, this purging is happening with our generations. Look at your parents, how they raised you. Look at you, and then look how you're raising your children. Do you see the purging? Do you see that this is very, very important to the restoration of the whole house of Israel? That the one in legal possession of the rod of rule, Tamar, cannot be given to a harlot mixture, Shelah. Shelah's mother was a Canaanite, which is a cursed mix. Those that have the legal right to rule then must be found more righteous than Judah and not be a corrupted, mixed, spiritual pagans. We cannot be that way. Does that make sense? We cannot be that way. Judah gave away his rod to Tamar, the granddaughter of Shem. Granddaughter of Shem was Tamar, and Shem was the first Melchizedek. The first Melchizedek. Just as now, Judah has given away the rod of rule to those in the Melchizedek priesthood, but Judah, the awesome thing is also invited into the Melchizedek priesthood because we are all one in Mashiach. It's the way back into the kingdom where we are all one in Messiah. There is neither stranger nor homeborn, male or female. We are all one in Messiah. Pretty cool passage when you see the passing over principle and Judah giving away the scepter. So Shiloh, until whom it belongs, is what we established yesterday. And Shiloh was located geographically in the land of Ephraim, in the land of Ephraim. So we have this passing over principle, if you will. He passed over Shiloh, Ephraim, and he went from Shiloh in Ephraim to where? Jerusalem in Judah. You see that passing over right there too? And then he will take another passing over from Jerusalem, and he's going to go to the third part, which is the remnant tithe in the nations. And that's what he's bringing into harvest now. You are the remnant tithe in the nations. There's a passing over principle, and it's tripartite. He passed over Shiloh, then to Jerusalem, passed over Jerusalem, now to the remnant tithe scattered in the nations to bring in the full harvest. The rod shall not depart from Judah, nor the lawgiver from between his feet, until the obedient people, until whom it belongs, comes. So Yahweh passes over the first and the second and takes the third, just as Yahweh passed over the two evil sons of Eli and took Samuel. He passes over again the 2,000-year period history of the church, and he now takes the remnant tithe, Ephraim and Judah, or the Samuel remnant, which we would be, which is the third part or third period of which we're in today. There's a lot to lay down on you quickly, but I believe that we have now entered into that third period. And there's been a passing over. But there's a lot of people that still have not received and embraced their inheritance. And that's what Michael was talking to me about yesterday. But there's a lot of people waking up to what is being spoken about the Melchizedek priesthood, about the migration of Judah, the synagogue of Satan, and what is happening on this world. And we can see that in Yehoshua chapter 18, verse 1, it is written, and the whole congregation of the children of Israel assembled together at Shiloh, and they set up the tabernacle of the congregation there. And the land was subdued before them. And there remained among the children of Israel 7 tribes which had not yet received their inheritance. So, of course, 7 is on the menorah, it is perfection. 7 days of the week, we rest on the 7th day. 7, when we're talking tribal, we're talking about perfect family restoration. Does that make sense? The restoration of the 2 houses of Israel is that perfect family restoration. So I believe that the time of Joseph and Judah coming together is now. And that is what we're starting to see. And the deceptions have been exposed, and now the brethren are coming in. Now, going forward a little bit to the book of Shemot, Exodus, the Torah recounts the plagues that was inflicted upon Mitzrayim when Pharaoh, the king, refused to let our people go. Now, for the last generation that is scattered in the nations, Yahweh, I believe, will deliver us from the world and lead us again into the land. But right now we're seeing that the land is being cleared and being cleansed to make way for the restoration. So the Torah then builds up to Joshua, Yehoshua, bringing Israel home, and the prophecies then build from the Torah through the writings and the prophets to Yahusha leading Israel home in full restoration. But just as in the Torah, we're going to have to endure plagues. Just as in the Torah, we're going to have to endure cosmic disturbances. And just as in the Torah, we're going to be up against Johns and Jambres and the magicians. Now, the magicians today are a lot more sophisticated. We've got NASA, of course, extremely sophisticated. We've got, Elon Musk, very sophisticated. There's a lot of sophisticated magicians that are trying to keep us all in captivity. And they all work in Pharaoh's court. Okay? They all work in Pharaoh's court. And so we have to be discerning. We have to be careful. For the last generation, there is also going to be these judgments, cosmic disturbances, and also a triumph by the blood of the Lamb, just like there was a triumph there by the blood of the Lamb. And instead of an exodus, it's going to be what? A greater exodus. As the prophet Jeremiah says, I believe it's in the 18th chapter. And in the book of Exodus, Shemo, there are 3 times 3 plagues, and then a final judgment, of course, totaling 10 in all. And I believe in the last generation, as the scriptures tell us, there will be 3 sets of 7 more severe judgments in the book of Revelation, and then the greater exodus from the nations. Now, I'll give you this text here in Shemo, Exodus chapter 6, verse 2. I'll read it to you. And we of course, read this at Pesach, at Passover, and this is where we get the cups of blessing and whatnot. And Elohim spoke to Moshe and said to him, I am Yahweh, and I appeared to Abraham, to Yitzhak, and to Yaakov in and as El Shaddai. But by my name, Yahweh, was I not known to them? And I have also established my Brit, my covenant with them, to give them the land of Canaan, the land of their pilgrimage, where they were Gerim, strangers. And I have also heard the groaning of the children of Israel, whom the Mitzrayim, the Egyptians, keep in bondage, and I have remembered my covenant. It's quite significant, the name or the title here, El Shaddai. El, Elohim, Shad, breast, Dai is sufficient. Elohim's breast is sufficient, which of course, I always go back to John the Beloved, who knew this and was always reclining upon the breast or the bosom of the Master Yahusha. Because we know that the Savior, his flesh didn't come from the dust, it came from the heaven, because he is the manifest bosom of Yahweh. He is what? All sufficient. And all sufficiency, as it is spoken of in Colossians, is found or sustained in Messiah Yahusha himself. He's the manifest bosom of Yahweh that was ripped out, formed, and placed upon mankind. But his flesh, of course, comes from the heaven. He's the heavenly manna brought down to earth. So the significance of El Shaddai is that Yahweh revealed something very important about himself through the titles he used when he appeared to the patriarchs. So there's 2 aspects here of the covenant that was established by Yahweh with Abraham. Land and offspring. Can we agree on that? 2 very important aspects, and that's what we're looking at. Who are we? I suggest that you are the offspring of Abraham. And I think we've established that, and Galatians and the Romans and many, many of the epistles and the writings in the Brit Hadashah establish that, because it was already established and laid foundation by the prophets, and its foundation is in the Torah. So we can see the thread of the needle, and we're starting to see the tapestry come into light. 2 aspects of the covenant, land and offspring. Bereshit, Genesis chapter 15, first aspect is the land. And when the land is being used as a promise, then how does Yahweh identify himself? Yahweh, Yod, Wah, hey. When he's talking about the land, this promise is connected to Israel's slavery and deliverance from the land of Egypt and the promise of inheritance into another land, Israel. And you see that in Genesis chapter 15. Yahweh, Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh is used. But then when you go 2 more chapters along in Bereshit, Genesis chapter 17, you're going to see the other aspect of the promise, zerah, seed. And when seed is spoken, he uses his title, El Shaddai. Genesis chapter 17, El Shaddai is used because it's multiplicity. Multiplicity. El Shaddai is multiplicity, right? Just as with a woman, you can nurse, twins from El Shaddai, right? That's nourishment, multiplicity of seed. So you can see if El Shaddai means Elohim's breast is sufficient, you can see the similitudes right there. So we've got 2 covenants and 2 names, if you will. Of course, there's only one name, one's a title, but it's also a name, right? El Shaddai, but not the true name, because the true name is the Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh. So overwhelmingly then, when Elohim introduces himself as Yahweh, he's talking about how he's going to bring Abraham's descendants into the land. Overwhelmingly then, when Yahweh introduces himself as El Shaddai, he's talking about the promise of multiplicity to Abraham's seed. Does that make sense? When you read Exodus chapter 6, he said, the patriarchs didn't know me by Yahweh. And you're like, well, yes, they did. What is he talking about? He's talking about the distinction of the promises. The patriarchs, it was about land, and now he's talking about seed. When he's talking about seed, he's talking about El Shaddai. When he's talking about land, he's talking about the Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh, the introduction of the true name. This is really important because the multiplicity is in Abraham's seed. So when Elohim appeared as El Shaddai, the emphasis of the covenant was on the aspect of being fruitful and multiplying zerah, seed. And when he appeared as Yahweh, the emphasis is on receiving the land. Receiving the land. Why do you think the Ashkenazi, when they talk about their God, it's always what? Hashem or G-D. There's no mention of the true name. In fact, the true name is banned. Why? Because the true name is connected to the true inheritors of the land, not the imposters who serve another God, and their God is the light bearer, right? And then they don't talk about El Shaddai, because El Shaddai is connected to you, the true seed of Abraham and inheritors of the promise. But if somebody's trying to steal your inheritance, they're certainly not going to address the title from which the inheritance comes, because they're trying to bypass the title to the land. Can you see it? Or have I totally rambling and lost you? Silence. I'm not sure. I'm feeling like I'm on uneasy, steady, unsteady. All right, cool. Okay, I got one over on the right that understands. Okay, I'm going to keep on going. This is just for you, Doug. It's just for you. Anybody online understand? Give me some thumbs up. Oh, I got no. I got some. Yeah. We got notes. You're taking notes. Okay, I got a couple here. Diesel Grandpa in the back gave me a thumbs up. All right. Nice one. But you're here. I'm waiting. Yeah, nobody online. Nobody has a clue. Do you guys? Do you? Oh, North Carolina's watching. North Carolina? All right, I'll continue on. All right, Genesis chapter 1, verse 27. So the word of Elohim created man in his own image, and the image of Elohim he created him. Male and female he created them. Whatever, Matthew. And Elohim blessed them, and Elohim said to them, Bree? What am I? What am I, like, hungry? I'm like, some brie? What am I, want cheese on toast or something? Is that what it is? Cremated brie? Cheese on toast. Man, I'm hungry. So I'm staring here preaching at the kitchen. That's what it is, okay? All right, let's back up a little bit there. Forget the cremation and the brie cheese. Let's see what the word says. So the word of Elohim created man in his own image, and the image of Elohim he created him. Male and female he created them, and Elohim blessed them, and Elohim said to them, be fruitful, I said it again, and multiply. So we've got the creator Elohim concerned with the multiplicity of his creation, zirah, seed. Then in chapter 2 of Genesis, in the verse 4, we'll see if we can get some food items out of this one. There are generations of the Shamayim and of the earth when they were created. These are the generations of the Shamayim, the heavens and the earth when they were created. In the day that Yahweh Elohim made the earth and the Shamayim, and every plant of the field before it was in the earth, and every herb of the field before it grew. For Yahweh Elohim had not caused it to rain upon the earth, and there was not a man to till the ground. But, verse 6, there went up a midst. All right, we won't go down that rabbit hole. From the earth and watered the whole face of the ground. What do we have there? You see it? Yahweh, creator Yahweh. He is concerned personally with mankind's link to the earth, the land. You see the connections, the difference in how he describes himself, which is why in Exodus, Shemot chapter 6, verse 2 through 4, teaches us then how Elohim makes himself known experientially, through his names and his titles, whether or not he's used the names. El Shaddai had made himself known through the lives of the patriarchs behind the scenes. El Shaddai, seed, Yahweh, land. That makes more sense when I understand and now read Exodus chapter 6, verse 2, because you go back and you see the name Yahweh all the time in the patriarchs. So that doesn't make any sense until you see the distinction between land and seed, seed being El Shaddai, land being Yahweh. So in Exodus chapter 6, verse 2, we see that Yahweh is about to do something. And he's about to do something as he did then, so he will again. He is going to make himself intimately involved in your lives in this generation in a new way by plucking you out of paganism, plucking you out of your false identities and false religions. He is about to become intimately involved in your affairs in relation to your deliverance from the land of oppression in which you and I have been born. And it's all a lie. From the very beginning, everything we have been taught is a lie. From birth onwards, we have to question everything. And the longer and more we question it, the more we see how much lies and deception we live in. So Yahweh is in the business of relating to the last generation as giving us deliverance from the land of our oppression into the land of promise, just as he did with that generation. And then he's going to judge the surrounding nations and the surrounding lands. So the importance of the name Yahweh, not Hashem, not Adonai, not God, not Lord, has been revealed to us. We're true namers. It's important. It's upon our lips because we are connected to the... thank goodness somebody was listening, to the land. Why do you think we're all so like gung-ho about the true name? You've got it on your hats, your t-shirts. I mean, some of you even got it on your wing mirrors. I mean, George, right? It's everywhere. Why? Because it's just, we're excited. We're excited about knowing his name. My people are called by my name. Yeah, exactly. Because you've got a promise of inheriting the land. Yeah, and the prophets also. But there's also a promise for us of another book. A separate book awaits us. Malachi chapter 3, verse 16. Then they that feared Yahweh spoke often to one another, and Yahweh listened and heard it, and a scroll of remembrance was written before him for them that fear Yahweh and that thought upon his name. And they shall be mine, says Yahweh Savot, in that day when I make my jewels, that's you, the living stones, your jewels, and I will spare them as a man spares his own son that serves him. So all of these promises, all of these blessings, seed, land, they are established upon the 7 I wills, which is perfection, right? Now, in Exodus chapter 6, verse 6, which is where we get the 4 cups of the Passover from, there are the 7 I wills there. I will bring you out. What is that? That in the Passover, that's the cup of sanctification. You're being brought out of something, sin, bondage, drug addiction, whatever it is. That's a move of sanctification. I will bring you out. Has he done that in all of our lives? That's being saved. Number 2, I will deliver you. Now, to deliver somebody, you've got to give them what? Instruction. Okay. You're going to have to go here. You're going to have to do that. You're going to got to do this and that. You've got to give them instruction. So the second I will is instruction, deliverance. Deliverance means you've got to obey his instruction. What a concept. Are you really deliverant if you don't follow the instructions? No, you're going to be left in Mitzrayim or left in Babylon. The third I will is redemption. You got to be sanctified. You got to listen to his instructions and keep his commandments. And then guess what? You're going to find some redemption happening in your life. Some good things happening to you. Man, I'm finally getting some redemption here, right? All those years, and I was scrapping around, and now I'm getting some redemption. Praise Yah. And number 4, I will take you. He's going to take his people. That's praise. We praise Yahweh. He's taken us. That means he's taken us out of somewhere to take us into somewhere. He's not leaving us here. He hasn't worked thus far to just stop at number 3. He's taken us, and he's taken us into the kingdom, into the land, and we are going to be his bride, which is why we are his bride. That's why we're here at Sukkot, which is the marriage supper of the Lamb. We're rehearsing. Number 5, I will be your Elohim. He's going to be there for you always and forever. Number 6, I will bring you into the land. And number 7, I will give you a heritage. Nobody's taking it from you. It will pass down to your generation. It's not going to be taken by the state in probate and taxes. No, it's going to pass down forever. It's a heritage. You see the 7 I wills, and they are covenants established upon these I wills. So there is the 7 I wills of the Abrahamic covenant, and you'll find them in Genesis chapter 17. You'll see it 7 times. I will, I will, I will, I will, I will, I will, I will. Then there's the 7 I wills of the promise of redemption and deliverance. I just read it to you. Shemot, Exodus chapter 6. So then we should find 7 I wills somewhere else, because what about the promises of which we are the inheritors, which is the Brit Hadashah? Where are we going to find the 7 I wills of the Brit Hadashah? Anybody? Jeremiah chapter 31. You're going to find the 7 I wills of the Brit Hadashah. He is going to bring us in because he is taking us out. And we are the people that the prophet Malachi spoke about. Remember the Torah of Moshe, my servant, which I commanded to him in Horeb for all of Israel, with the chukim and the mishpatim, the statutes and the judgments. Behold, I will send you Elohim, I will send you Elijah the prophet, before the coming of the great and dreadful Yom Yahweh, day of Yahweh. So in Shemot, Exodus, the death of the firstborn, and in our time, the bowl of judgment and the final Yom Kippur festival. That's the day of judgment. And then he shall turn the lev, the hearts of the fathers to the children, and the hearts of the children to their fathers. We're all turning back to our fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. All of us, our children, you guys, hopefully your parents and your grandparents, we're all turning back, lest I come and smite the earth with a curse through utter destruction. So, all that to say this, what happens if you fail to identify who you are? What happens if you fail to identify the right place? And what happens if you fail to identify the true power? So it comes down to identifying a place, a people, and a power. And again, we need to be vigilant in 3 other areas, and that is prayer, prophecy, and protecting Yahweh's end-time people. Prayer, prophecy, and protecting Yahweh's end-time people. Because it's not the political entity of the state of Israel that is the land. True biblical Israel is not yet gathered, but remains scattered throughout the world and is now being called to action in these last days. To the birthright, it truly is a massive move of the Ruach HaKodesh, and you and I are witnessing it at the feasts, the Sabbaths, Yahweh's Moedim, and it is Awesome. Awesome. Thank you all so much for listening and for all the great insight that we're going to continue to get. Michael, thank you for coming up on the spot. Aaron, Nina, for throwing us into the wormhole of thought that we're going to delve into. Some of us will. And Aaron will always be the rudder, making sure. And it sounds like Cody might be co-ruddering with you there, making sure that we don't go off the cliff. So praise Yahweh, and we will catch you guys online tomorrow. Blessings, and thank you for joining us. Shalom, shalom.